to say that we have a strong case is an understatement. It's a slam dunk deal. There is no question that a federal judge is going to uphold our right to freely exercise religion. It's right there in the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Just like you said, it's right in the same sentence with freedom of speech. And we're going to protect our constitutional right to continue to practice our faith.
That's Father Bernie Lindley of St. Timothy's Episcopal Church in Brookings. Despite a unanimous vote by the Brookings City Council on Monday, designed to limit St. Timothy's feeding program for homeless people in Brookings, Father Lindley and the church are refusing to comply based on the constitutional provision of the separation of church and state. So what's behind this effort by the Brookings City Council?
They want to somehow or another limit the amount of visits they make to the church, I suppose. And their thought is the best way to do that is to try to come up with only 2 days a week that we would feed people, under the assumption that that would create less, foot traffic. Because we're not really talking about cars so much. We're talking about people who are, living in the rough, and they're coming to the church to get a warm meal. So I think that's the theory, is that they want to slow down the impact on the neighborhood. And I would contend that there's better ways to do that.
What you've been doing at St. Timothy's and what the other churches in Brookings have been doing, I mean, you all have been doing this for a while. It's not like this was a new thing. And my understanding is actually the current mayor, I mean, he's had some experience in working with you all there.
We started feeding people in 2009, and around 2010, the current mayor, he was the kitchen manager for our Tuesday meal, and he and his wife spent a tremendous amount of time making sure that people would get fed. And he retired from it probably 3 years ago, he retired from it. So he put in 8 or 9 years, probably 9 years he spent putting in a tremendous amount of time making sure people get fed. And so I think what he's not evil. There's no, it's not as simple as some people are evil and some people are saints. And certainly I don't fall in the saint category. But I think what he was thinking is that we have to find a balance in the community, a balance in the neighborhood, so that we have the feeding ministry spread out throughout the town. And the problem, the thing though, I understand his intent, but the problem is that the other churches that are feeding on so we feed 4 days a week right now, and there are 4 churches participating. So there's 2 other churches within about a block and a half from St. Timothy's. One of them, Star of the Sea, which is just up Old County Road a little ways. And the other one is the Presbyterian Church, which is just on the other end of First Street. And so those other churches, they're feeding, and it's the same neighborhood. So it doesn't really limit the amount of foot traffic in this particular, 6-block radius, because that's where the other churches happen to be located. Because, churches historically are located in residential neighborhoods. And, the reason for that is so that we can impact our neighborhoods for the better, which is what we strive to do. And, Mike, so what changed, I think, so for 12 years, this wasn't a problem, and now it is. I think what changed is the strain of the pandemic. Our people that we feed, they're getting by, under normal times, but the pandemic, it was hard to get access to services. It was, we have a housing crunch here. So some of our people we serve are newly homeless. There really isn't any hope of getting housed in our community. So you take the strain on somebody who's already emotionally fragile from just being in the rough for a long time, and people who have various different mental health conditions, whether it's schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. And if you're on the verge of having a manic episode, this pandemic is going to put you across the brink, and you're going to end up acting out. And in the same way, our schizophrenic friends have had quite a few psychotic breaks. So we end up with folks walking down the middle of the road, having these episodes. And what they're not a danger to anybody, because the person who's most likely to be a person who's schizophrenic, for instance, they're more likely to be a victim of a crime rather than the perpetrator of a crime. And I think that's just like an established fact. And so, if somebody lives in the neighborhood, they see somebody walking down the road and they see them yelling at nothing in particular, just, raising their voice and waving their arms around, and they get scared. And because, it's unnerving, I guess, to see somebody in a manic state or, in a psychotic break. And so anyway, they call the police or whatever they do. And they think that they need to lock their doors and shutter their curtains. And the fact is that our homeless clients, their safety is in definite jeopardy. They could easily die of hypothermia tonight when it rains and it's cold, and their clothes get wet and they don't have any dry shelter. So there's really kind of the problem that I have is that, so the city council is worried about safety. They're worried that everyone feels safe. And certainly we want our house friends to feel safe. But when we're talking about reaching balance, we also want our unhoused people that are also residents of Brookings. I was talking about this the other day. Right now, Brookings is going through we do mail-in ballots, and there's going to be an election, and I don't know which day the election is, but there's an awful lot of people that use our address because they don't have one and they receive their mail at St. Timothy's. And so when they get an ID card, they use the church and there's a car going to go by right now. Some of these cars are kind of loud, but their ID, they use St. Timothy's address for their mailing address. And so that's where their ballots are received. And so 35 to 40 people here last week got their ballots delivered to St. Timothy's. So those people are considered residents of Brookings, regardless of where it is that they sleep at night. They're residents of Brookings, and voting residents. So they're constituents. They're constituents that the city council is responsible for. And so my concern is that they're saying, well, these 29 people that signed this petition, their safety is more important than the safety of the 35 or 40 people that are sleeping in the rough at night.
It sounds like they're trying to trade the perceived safety of one group for the definite jeopardy of an incredibly vulnerable group of people. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Mike, you summarized it a lot. So I used a whole lot of words that you were able to say much more succinctly. Thank you.
My understanding is that in addition to food and showers, that St. Timothy's has also been a bit of a hub for trying to cope with the pandemic itself by providing COVID testing and vaccinations. Is that true?
Yeah, that's all part of our role in the community, our mission, and this is all deeply held religious beliefs that we are supposed to be instrumental in the healing of our community and keeping our community healthy, regardless of whether someone's housed or not. That part doesn't even matter. We've been testing people since July. We've been doing our testing clinic, and we've been vaccinating since April. And we've administered 1,500 shots so far, and we've done 4,000 tests. And out of those 4,000 tests, we've had over 600 people come positive here at the church. They came in to get tested. Over 600 people have tested positive for COVID. And of those 600, there are 4 that we know about that have died as a result of COVID-19 after they got done testing positive at our church. So our job is to do the best we can to make our community healthy and to keep our community healthy, regardless of economic status.
According to Father Lindley, the animosity between the City Council and St. Timothy's over the church's feeding program is unfortunate and unnecessary.
The frustrating thing is that we would like to be able to develop partnerships with the city. We would like to be able to figure out ways to create stability in the lives of people who are living in the rough. And the city would like to see that happen too. I know they would, but we have to agree on our approach to this, and limiting services. That's not the way to go about creating stability in the lives of folks that are living on the edge. So certainly, we'll prevail in the lawsuit. We're not even worried about that. It's just time and effort, and there's money involved, of course. But the St. Timothy's is not a standalone church. We're part of a diocese. There's 70 churches in our diocese. We have a bishop. Our bishop fully supports our right to practice our religion here in Brookings. And not only that, we're part of a national church, and if need be, our national church will be involved as well with our legal counsel. So it's just a silly thing for us to have to pursue this. So it's going to cost somebody a lot of money.
Money that could very easily be put to much better use than it could wind up being put to use in court battles and legal fights.
Well, I would suggest that we could have used the money that's going to go into litigation, because just the money that the city spends alone in the litigation, we could buy a piece of property and create something similar to, I think her name's Betty Chan down in Eureka. She has a shelter down there, and something similar to that, or something similar to what they have in Medford, that Hope Village, small tiny house community that they have there that has been successful in other communities as well. That I would guess that the amount of money that the city, regardless of what our diocese spends, I would say that we could have went a long way toward mitigating the impact of homelessness on our community in a much more productive way should this money be spent in a different direction. It's just really sad. And it might very well be that that they'll have to pay their legal fee, and then after that they might have to they might still need to go buy that property.
Father Lindley, as you know, we have our own problems with homelessness and mental illness here in Crescent City. Do you have any thoughts for people in our area who might be listening to this?
Well, when it comes to the church community, what I would say is that we need to be unified in our prayer to seek solutions, for God to reveal what those solutions might be, and for us to be ready to live into that when we see the opportunities. And so here at St. Timothy's, we've been praying for usable land, for a viable place for people to live as they transition into a better life. That's how we phrase our prayer. I almost quoted it verbatim because we've been praying it so much over the last 2 or 3 years. And so for the different faith communities in Crescent City as well as Brookings, I would encourage us all to pray unceasingly for a better solution for the people who are marginalized. But as far as other groups, we can't get complacent. We have to be waiting at all times for when an opportunity reveals itself, because I would hate to get stuck, picking the lint out of my belly button when there was an opportunity and I missed it. There's no bad guys and good guys here. There's just different people. It's just the Brookings City Council is looking to come up with a solution that they sincerely think is a good way to mitigate the impact on a particular neighborhood. The problem is that they didn't take into account the fact that it violates our constitutional rights. So I don't, there's still a chance maybe that they'll come to that conclusion and backtrack. But right now, I'm not too hopeful about that, unfortunately, because they've been consistent in the way that they've actually the Planning Commission, though, when they reviewed this, they were not unanimous. That vote was 3-2 in favor of recommending this to the city council. So not everybody in the city government agrees that this is the right way to go. So that's encouraging, and we'll see what happens. I have I have the utmost faith that in the end, everything is going to work out to God's good purpose.
Father Bernie Lindley of St. Timothy's Church in Brookings, discussing what's been happening there regarding the religious community's efforts to provide food and resources to the city's homeless population. The unanimous vote by the Brookings City Council to pass an ordinance in order to limit St. Timothy's efforts when it comes to feeding people in need, and the church's response of refusing to comply based on the constitutional right of freedom of religion. For KFUG Community News, I'm Mike Thornton.